Okay, so today is your lucky day. I think Carl had a question that I told him I wanted to have him record the question. So speak loud so that everybody can hear you on the recording.
So is the final going to be just what are we going to do with the last couple of chapters? This is the last midterm test.
Oh, that wasn't the question you asked, but that's a
Which
good
one?
question too. Go ahead.
Is it the same thing?
I thought it was about the test, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I said is the final accumulative, and then I said is the next couple chapters just on the final.
Okay. So I misunderstood, but anyway, that's a good question still. Okay, so here's your lucky day today. We're actually slightly ahead of schedule. Okay. So I think I will turn today, because we were supposed to cover 13.1, which is the ANOVA test, but it's really quite a complicated, lots of things, and since we're ahead, and the problem is 13.2 really relies on 13.1, so I didn't really want to split those up. So I'm going to save those for next week. Those will not be on this test. So today is going to be a review day, okay? So in answer to Carl's question, so next week we'll cover 13.1 on Monday, 13.2 on Tuesday, 14.1 on Wednesday, 14.2 on Thursday. Those are very computationally intensive things. And so we'll save that for the next test. Now, as far as the final goes, let me back up. The following week, we're just going to review the entire week for the final. The last week of the class. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do, in fact, we're going to start doing this today, is I'm going to post an announcement that has these scenarios. Let me share my screen here. And in fact, I didn't share that either. And in fact, we did A1 in my previous class. So we're not going to do A1 in this class because you can watch that video. It is already posted, Glenn. So you know that. Apparently I forgot to post it last night. I posted it early this morning. And don't do what Glenn did and listen to it while you're driving. That doesn't sound very safe. He said he was, though. So good job, Glenn. So anyway, so we're going to go over a different scenario, probably scenario number 2 today. We only got through one scenario, but here's the deal. So tomorrow I'm going to post this entire thing. There's probably 50 or 60 scenarios on here. Most of them you can do. There's probably only 1 or 2. Well, I'll put it this way. There's probably a handful that I haven't taught you yet, but most of them I have. So so go ahead and study this. I will pick just a random one, not 1 or 2, because those are the ones we're going to cover in class today. So that'll be the quiz tomorrow. Is basically we're going to go through a scenario like we're going to do today. I'm going to ask you which hypothesis test should you pick. What should be the null and the alternative hypothesis? I'm going to make up some sort of a p-value. And we're going to see if you can properly reject or not reject and give me the conclusion. Does that make sense? So there's actually, in these things, there's not enough information to actually solve the problem. But there is enough information, so you should be able to tell me what kind of a test you should pick. Okay? So don't think you can solve them. So I'm just going to post these up without answers, and then you can look at them, and I'll just pick one at random tomorrow. And then the last week of class, we'll be doing these all week, unless you guys have other questions. Okay? So this is what we'll do today, and tomorrow will be our regular review day where you can just pick, or you can just ask me anything. Okay? So Gabriel, you had a question.
Oh, you answered it.
Oh, I answered it. Okay, good. All right, Jaden.
So final is cumulative. So
Final will be cumulative. However, having said that, guaranteed chapters 13 and chapter 14 will be on the final, and then anything else is fair game.
So will it place probably like a higher emphasis on the 13 and 14, and then the other ones could be random?
what should we say?
So let me tell you what I normally do on my final exam. So there's 2 parts of the final exam. I believe they're actually letting me give you the computer final I used to give you a week early, but last year I got in trouble for that the reason why was because the testing center wouldn't let me give you the final during finals week because this isn't an online class. And I've been doing it for a long time, but anyway, they're letting you do it during finals week now. It's gonna be the computer final, I believe, is Monday and Tuesday of finals week. I think the written test, you're my 9 o'clock class. Okay, so for those of you who in my 8 o'clock class, I think the 8 o'clock class is going to meet at 7 on Monday. I'm sorry. The 9 o'clock class is going to meet at 9 o'clock on Wednesday, I'm pretty sure, of finals week. So we'll meet at our regular time on a Wednesday. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
You can go to the.
So as far as the final, the written final, here's what I typically do. We've got 14 chapters. I usually pick about 2 questions per chapter. And so they're all equally represented. As far as the computer final, there will definitely be a problem from chapters 13 and 14, or one problem from 13, one problem from 14, and then anything else is fair game. I've always joked about giving you like just 1 or 2 problems with like A through X parts, but I don't know. I may or may not do that. We'll see. Yeah, maybe not. So anyway, I will say this. This question came up in my last class, and I'll just tell you guys really quickly. They asked me about graphing because there were some questions on the homework that asked about bar graphs. I didn't put that on the quiz today. The one thing that I will say about bar graphs, that's a good review. You'll notice that some of the stuff that we're doing now reviews some of the previous stuff. So I didn't ask that on the quiz today, and I'm more interested right now in focusing on hypothesis tests because I know that's where you guys struggle. But as far as the final goes, yeah, a bar graph would be completely fair game. So there will probably be bar graphs, pie graphs, histograms, things like that on the final. Probably not on this next test though. So make sure that you are reviewing all that and that you know how to do that. So, all right, any other questions? Yes.
So this is our study guide for the final too. Like,
this is our study guide. So here's what I will say. The hardest part of this class, and I think you will all agree with me now that the class is, 80% done, is picking the correct hypothesis test. So the week when we're doing our final review, when there's no new material, I'm probably going to give you some quizzes based on this. And so, yeah, so, however, having said that, we can also talk about whatever you guys want. If you guys want to talk about QQ plots or histograms or whatever, review that stuff. You should really don't cram, kind of try to, especially on the weekends when you have a little bit more time, especially this weekend where you don't have, because we're getting a test, so you're not going to have any homework. Start going over the old stuff so that you can ask me how to do that. Okay? All right. So are you guys ready for your first scenario? This will be scenario A2 here. Okay? I will post it. Yes, you will be able to. I don't think I posted it yet, but I will post it. I'll post it in the announcements, so you should be able to see it. All right. Ted is a medical researcher and wants to monitor the blood sugar of some patients in a study. He is concerned that these patients might have a higher blood sugar than the general population. His research tells him that the average adult blood glucose level is 84 milligrams per deciliter with a standard deviation of 5 milligrams per deciliter. For his study, he is measuring both the husband and wife of 22 couples in his patient group. Which hypothesis test should Ted use? Now, before we answer that question, okay, what's the first question you should ask yourself? Is it categorical, quantitative, or regression? Should we vote? Who says it's categorical? 1? Who says it's quantitative? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not very, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, a very big majority, 18. Who says it's regression? Nobody? One of these days it's going to be regression, you know that. Okay? All right, so it is quantitative. Now, Kayla, why did you think it was categorical?
They either had a higher blood pressure than not do not.
Oh,
But now I understand why it's
okay. All right. All right, so that's good. Now, the next question is, we could either do which test or the null hypothesis, null alternative. I think which test is the better question to ask. Is it a z, a t, a chi-square, or an f? We'll do the 4 major tests right now, and then we'll narrow it down from there.
Are you wanting to look at it?
Oh yeah, you want to give me an answer?
Well,
Or should we vote? You guys want to vote? Let's vote. Who thinks it's a z? 1, 2, 3. Who thinks it's a t? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Who thinks it's a chi-square? Nobody? Who thinks it's an f? Okay. Wow, this is unusual. We got minority wins on this one. It's a z test because we know the population standard deviation. All right, that was a tricky one. Okay. Do you see that? His research tells him we know the population standard deviation. Okay, Adam.
Sample size is only 22, isn't that below?
Oh, that's a good question.
Doesn't that make it a T? It's 22 couples.
Oh, and a 22 couples either.
it's 44.
Isn't that a paired t-test?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
It's a good distractor though. Okay, is that what some of you thought? You saw the 22 couples and you said it was a paired t-test? Yeah. Yeah, so it's just a badly designed study. No, I won't say that. So 22 is a little bit small, so that's something to pay attention to. Oh, I forgot to ask about that. In fact, let's go back to that question because I did this a little differently in my other class. Once you know it's categorical, quantitative, or regression, let's talk about the rules on is it big enough, okay? So we said it was quantitative. What is the rule for sample size that applies? N greater than 30, right? N greater than or equal to 30. Okay, is my N greater than 30?
Yes, 42, 44 people. It says the average adult or whatever, right?
Oh, wow, this is a really tricky one. I didn't think about that.
It's
Okay.
4 people.
So let's talk about some of the different scenarios here. Okay, now we know it's a z-test, right? Based on a z-test, is it large enough? Because you're saying it's 44 people, okay? Now, if it had been a paired t-test, because some of you saw the couples there, and I'm focusing on that, would it have been large enough if it was a paired t-test? No, because you'd only have 22 per group, right? So you'd need to check. Because it doesn't say they're normally distributed, so you'd need to check with a QQ plot. So, now the weird thing is, why is he measuring both the husband and wife and 22 couples?
Yeah, what does
Yeah.
that have to do with this?
So if the N is greater than 30 on a Z-test, it's big enough. On a T-test, it would not be big enough. Because you'd only have 22 in each group, right? Because your N1 has to be greater than 30 and your N2 would have to be greater than 30. So that's a good question. I didn't think about that. I usually don't ask you about sample size stuff but on these. Okay? So that one you could answer it either way depending on your test. So it would depend on really, you need to know which test you're picking before you know if that's big enough. Yes? On the final? Probably. This week, I'll probably not. Yeah. But these are still good to review. Okay? All right, so I'm going to put kind of, okay? You can't tell. So on the Z-test would be yes. On a paired T-test, it would be no. Okay? You can't answer that yet until you know what kind of test you're doing. All right. So it's a Z-test. Which kind of a Z-test is it? we've got a one sample mean, one sample proportion, two sample proportion. We've got, oh, and we got independent and dependent too, right? Oh, so actually, you could actually throw in here independent versus dependent as well, because we've got two tests there, right? Are there any others? I think that's it. Okay. So who says it's a one sample mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Who says it's a one sample proportion? Nobody, so you don't care whether it's dependent or independent. Nobody thinks it's a one sample proportion. Who thinks it's a two sample proportion? Nobody. Okay? So yes, it is a one sample mean. Here, I'll just erase that because it's one of those. Okay? A binomial, well this, yeah, so binomial, you'd have to have picked that already, basically. Yeah. Well, I guess we could throw that in there. So technically there's 5. We could throw the binomial in there. Wouldn't use the binomial enough to ask, but yeah, it would be, if it was a small sample size, instead of a z, you'd use binomial. But it would have to be a proportion test too. All right, one sample mean, you're doing your test. You get a p-value equal to 0.67. Okay? Reject or do not reject? Who says reject? Nobody. Who says do not reject? Majority. Who didn't raise your hand? Russell. All right, so this one is do not reject. And your conclusion is
We don't
Mitch.
like it because we assume that if there's no alpha it's stated, it's 0.05.
Correct. Yeah, if there's no alpha, assume it's 0.05. So what do you think is the conclusion, Mitch? Oh, we forgot to do that, didn't we? I guess it would help to do that. Let's do the null before we do that, and the alternative. What is the null and the alternative? That was good. I can't do the conclusion unless you know what the null. How about these are? What did you say, Ethan? Mu equals 84, and the alternative? He thinks his mu is greater than 84. Okay, who agrees with Ethan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who disagrees? There's more than 7 people in this class.
I raised my hand late, so you can say 8.
Okay. Nobody disagrees? You sure? Okay, good. That's correct. All right, now, Mitch, we're going to go back to you. What's the conclusion now that you know what your hypotheses are?
There's not enough evidence that patients have a higher blood sugar than 84 or general population.
Have higher blood sugar than the general population. Who agrees? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who disagrees? Nobody? That's good. Okay? Shay's like, you shouldn't do that. Don't talk us out of a right answer. All right, so we're about out of time. We got 2 minutes left. Do you guys want to ask any last questions? That's all we're going to do today. But I will say we did scenario A1 earlier, so if you want to check that out, you can. I will post this one as well, if I remember. If you're subscribed on my YouTube page, you'll know when it's posted. Okay? Was there a last question? It'll be based off of one of these problems. Probably not 1 or 2, though. Okay? All right. See you all tomorrow. The quiz will be on this scenario tomorrow.
That exact one.
Neither one of those 2.
This is one of those.